life is confusing. The world's confusing. The universe is confusing. It can be difficult to make sense out of things and know how to categorize our experiences and what we're dealing with. Like, imagine a beach and then being asked to organize all of the sand there on the beach. You could organize them by size. You could organize them by color. You could organize them by these are calcium from seashells that have been worn down. This is silica. And there are near infinite ways to categorize things. And you can get stuck in analysis paralysis just trying to figure out how to make sense out of raw data and information and everything that is going on. So it is really valuable to have some very simple, handy ways of categorizing things and making sense of the world. So I want to walk through two systems that I use most commonly. The first is from Wing Chun Kung Fu, believe it or not. And the second is a really cool project that some really interesting people are working on, and that is a whole rabbit hole. But it's very lightweight, very simple, and comprehensive, which is a really nice balance of competing things. Because some of the challenges is, now, like I said, the first system is Wing Chun Kung Fu, and it is a system, very compact system, and it's broken up into 6 different forms, and each of those forms are different studies of a central idea. So form number 1, Sunim Tao, or however you say it, no matter how you say it, it's going to be wrong because it's a Romanized version of Chinese. So Sunim Tao roughly translates to the little idea, and they're the very essential details that you have to manage, which is basically learning how to stand here and have boundaries. That's about it. So it's a study on being able to define zero. It's like, this is me, this is you, and here's my boundary. So first, you have to be able to define zero, which is inside, and that is your point in space. Now, the second form, called Chum Q, roughly translates to seeking bridges. So now, I'm over here, you're over there. How are we going to bridge the gap between us? So I'm here, you're there, and there's a straight line between us. So that's the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So that's the obvious best path to take because it's the most efficient. Well, sometimes there are things in our way, there are obstacles. So the indirect path is the shortest route. So the third form, Bujit, is roughly translating to pointing finger. So kind of like eye jab and eye gouges, that kind of thing, but also finger pointing to the moon. If you look at your finger, you'll miss all that heavenly glory, like Bruce Lee says in Enter the Dragon. So Bujit is all about indirect paths to your goal and being able to flow around obstructions and take the long route, which is actually the short route because it's the one that gets you where you want to go. Whereas if you were to go straight in, you would meet resistance, you would hit an obstacle or just something that would keep you from accomplishing your goals. And then the fourth form is the wooden dummy form. If you've ever watched Kung Fu movies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it is learning how to measure space and distance and position around through space and time and being able to transition into better positioning. So if you like branding, you like marketing, it's all about positioning. Yeah, Kung Fu's been there thousands of years ago. So now the fifth form are the double sword form. Like you're using double swords. And that is a study on you've defined zero. You're now able to move through space directly and indirectly. You can now move through time and in relationship with other interactions, other dynamics. And now that you've kind of mastered that, you can use tools to increase your area of influence, your area of impact. The space you can manage is bigger when you learn how to use tools. So now that you know how to use tools to maximum effect, the sixth and final form is a long pole form. It's like 9 feet long, and you hold it way at the back end, and the pole is way over there. That's teaching you the power of leverage. So it takes a lot of control, a lot of power to maneuver. However, it is really effective at impacting very far away from you, and it requires a lot of precision, even though you have to use a lot of power. So it allows you to refine your influence and be able to do something right here that affects through time to greater effect, whatever the math is. You move this much, and here's the fulcrum, and then it moves that much down the road through time. So those 6 details are a really good way of understanding what kind of problem or issue are we dealing with right now. And you start here. Do you know where you started? Do you know where you are? Are you able to stand your ground, right? So do you manage the very first level and then work your way through? Because if you have a leverage issue and the foundation you're working with isn't right, well, it may not be a leverage issue. It may not be a space and time issue. It may not be a tool issue. It may not be an indirect, right? So you can just work your way back until you find where the issue is. So a lot of the challenges that I see professionally as a consultant and as an entertainer, in the moment, I'm almost always thinking about it in relationship to that system of being able to evaluate what's the situation, what do we need to do about it. So you start here and then work your way through that way. Now, I understand that Kung Fu isn't for everybody, and I've probably lost most people. So kudos to you for sticking through it. So if that is not your cup of tea, this just might be. And it's called 4 games. The idea is that we are all playing 4 games at exactly the same time. And the first game that we play is the short game. And that's kind of what's going on inside of us. Those are your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. So those 3 elements of the inside game, the short game, and I think of it as short because those are the things that don't last all that long. Your thoughts happen, they bubble up, they bubble away. Your emotions, they can last a little longer. Actually, to me, I think that emotions last longer than thoughts. But anyway, they're very short-lived. And your actions only exist as long as you're doing them. So that's the short game, working on the inside, and your actions are kind of the bridge to the outside. And then the next one is your mid game, and that is your environment, the systems that are in that environment, and also the gadgets that you're using. And 4 games calls them gadgets. I call them tools, whatever, same difference, right? And then the long game, the third game is the long game. So that is, what's your goal? What path are you taking to get there? And what role do you play on that adventure? And then the 4th game is deep game. So you've got short, medium, and long. And then the 4th one is depth. And that has to do with mystery and metaphor and identity. Who are you at the core? And those are the 4 games and the 3 elements of each of those games that we are playing all at the same time. And our 4 games are interacting with everybody else's 4 games. And once you're able to see those games and the different dimensions of each of those games, it's really cool in the moment to be able to understand what somebody else is going through and to be able to interpret it through that lens of, oh, that's a deep game issue, or, oh, they're stuck in a mid game challenge. And that ability to categorize our whole lives into 4 games is really, really powerful. And the mystery and metaphor is, to me, kind of the all-encompassing game, really, because it's a mystery that we're even alive in the first place. The miracle of being able to experience the challenges of life, and that you could understand what I'm saying. Like that's a mystery. And then the metaphors that we use to talk about our life and experience influence the way that we interact with the other games. Because take a look at the games, right? The saying that there are 4 games. Well, you could say that there are 4 battlefields, and this is war. And then that brings a lot of other baggage to the party, and sometimes you want that. The detail is be intentional with the metaphor that you're using so that it's the right baggage for the message you're trying to communicate. And I like that it's called 4 games instead of 4 battles or 4 wars or whatever, because life is more fun when you treat it like a game that you can play, enjoy, and get better at. So I like the 4 game way of framing things, and you can see how the 4 games with the thoughts, emotions, and actions, and then the mid game of the environment and systems and tools, and then the long game of the goal and the path and your role. Are you the hero? Are you the sage? Are you the guide? Like, what role are you playing? And then the deep game, kind of those kind of match with the 6-step system of Wing Chun Kung Fu. So my logo is a tetrahedron, which there's a lot in there. I'll do a whole other video on all the kind of symbolism packed into that, if that's interesting to you. But the basic idea is that the inside and the outside, so the red, orange, and yellow is the kind of left chiral of the tetrahedron, and then the outside of the mid, long, and deep game are the right-handed chiral of the tetrahedron that fits together. But anyway, I don't want to get too far into that. That's a whole video of itself. But I wanted to share those 2 systems of sense making with you so that if you are prone to analysis paralysis, or the world is a confusing place and I don't know how to make sense out of it, I wanted to share those 2 approaches with you so that they might point you in the right direction. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it below this video if you're watching it on YouTube, or send me an email, DM. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I would love to hear from you. And in the meantime, I would highly suggest that you watch this video next and subscribe to the channel so that way you don't miss any new videos as I post them. So that's it for now. As always, remember, if you can change your mind, you can change your life.